If you are here to learn about getting started on KQED Learn for distance learning, which is our new reality around the country now, you're in the right place. Make sure you notice the bit.ly here. I'll give you a couple seconds to go ahead if you'd like to pull up the bit.ly on your own computer. That way you can follow along and click on the links yourself. All right. Second slide is loading. While I'm waiting for that to load, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Teresa Wiersbianska. I am the program manager of student media at KQED Education, and one of the things I do is help lead up KQED Learn, which is a student-facing platform that we think is probably pretty, might come in useful right now during these unprecedented times in education, where we're starting to really need to access new resources for distance learning in education. And one of the things that I would like to talk about, so KQED Learn basically has two separate parts of it. It is online, it's free, it's available to any classroom that wants to use it. It has two parts to it. One are discussions, and then one are media challenges. And I think both of these could be really useful to distance learning. Okay, access to slides. Thank you. Let me go ahead and make sure you have that. My apologies. All right. Try to refresh. All right. KQED Learn discussions are essentially videos that are produced by Above the Noise. Above the Noise is a PBS Digital Studios program that's targeted to Gen Z and teens about all kinds of interesting current events topics, like should teachers be armed at school? Can we trust social media influencers? Lots of different topics that range from science to media literacy to civics and humanity. And they're going to actually be producing a series of videos right now about COVID-19. Each of these discussions is designed to help support students with argument writing. And at this time, I would love to show you what it actually looks like in person, because I think it's helpful. This is our discussions page. When you go to KQED Learn, here's our home page, and up here is our nav bar. You just go to discussions. What I personally love about discussions, and I was an ELA teacher and a journalism teacher for a bunch of years in LA Unified and some other schools in Los Angeles. And what I love about KQED Learn is that it's just really easy to give this to your students in a distance learning capacity and have something that they are able to do independently, and something that you can really assess quickly. And I don't know what your districts are telling you in terms of how many assessments you are supposed to have every week. I think that's probably in development. What these discussions do is they ask students a question, and each question is a debatable topic. So students can formulate their own claims. They can take evidence from the video or other resources that are included. You'll find there's other resources here. And then they're encouraged to write a SEER paragraph: claim, evidence, explanation, and reasoning. You can see that students from around the country are chiming in on these discussions. So we have students from California, which is a ski country. We have students from all over the place who are, students can have these great discussions from other kids that are outside of their area who might have different points of view. If you go through these discussions, you'll see there are a range of topics that probably align closely with something you might be teaching. Some of them have to do with more student interest topics, like what can schools do to support mental health? That's something that lots of students have strong opinions about. And then more science-related topics or humanities-related topics. One of the big discussions that's really been popular is how far should we go when editing genes? So this is a great ethical debate. It aligns with science curricula. And each discussion, just want to walk you through it. You can just add it to your Google Classroom here. And then there's also a lesson plan that comes with each one. So this educator guide will walk you through how to facilitate a discussion. And everyone comes with a classroom viewing guide too. So this is something that you could hand out to your students on Google Classroom. And it helps students kind of do a little pre-writing activity before they get into the video. It helps them stop and test their knowledge to make sure that they're comprehending, so kind of a check for comprehension. And then lastly, there's a kind of a graphic organizer to help them identify the pros and cons for each debate, and then they can draft a response. This is especially good for our English language learners who might need a little bit more scaffolding. Are there any questions about discussions at this time? You can go ahead and use the chat if you want. All right, then I'll continue. The other thing about KQED Learn discussions that might be helpful for you as we're kind of converting to this distance learning new paradigm that might keep your students engaged. And I think that's one thing that we're all experimenting with. The students are by themselves, alone, needing to engage themselves. It's something that we've had some great results with. We also encourage, in addition to argument writing in KQED Learn discussions, we also encourage students to respond with media creation. So this is kind of fun. We have students responding with Google slide presentations. Some students are responding with infographics. Let me find some examples. Screen shares, and this is a really great way for students to practice different kinds of media creation. They're designed to be kind of informal and ways for students to practice 21st century communication skills. So we know now in this day and age, it's not just about being able to write text. It's also being able. We're also encouraging students to be able to create media that's shareable and that can communicate ideas in different and more engaging ways, in addition to text, which is also important. And students can respond with, they can respond with video, they can respond with audio podcasts, they can respond with infographics or images that they make, or presentations, or Google Maps, interactive maps. There's a lot of different ways they can use online media tools to create different kinds of responses. So those are discussions, pretty flexible. And I think student directed in many ways. The second aspect to KQED Learn is something that we're calling media challenges, and we just launched the first one in January. It's called Let's Talk About Election 2020. And this is a project that we're really excited to debut. And this could be an interesting thing to assign students as a kind of longer term project. As students are engaging in distance learning, we're not often able to facilitate classes in the same way that we were. I know some teachers are having Zoom classes and still meeting with students in a way that's as close as possible to the way they engaged with class before. That's not always possible. So sometimes giving students longer term projects might be another solution. Let's Talk About Election 2020 is asking students to think about issues regarding this election, and where it's open to students all around the country. And we're asking students to create video or audio commentaries. This is argument writing. They are finding issues that are important to them and explaining why this is an important issue for this election. So we have students talking about climate change, gun control, equal rights, immigration, lots of different issues that are important to them, euthanasia, feminism, lunch debt. So some of these issues are really broad issues that affect America at large. Some of them are maybe something that mostly affects young people, or might even affect just their community. So all of these get showcased on this national showcase. Students can see each other's work, which is, I think, kind of cool in this time of people being very separated from one another. They can actually look through each other's work and can actually comment and give their response to how students feel about some of these issues. So I'd like to show an example. This is a video commentary that was done by some students in San Jose. These are 8th graders. And they were working at a time when they were able to gather in groups and be at school and use some school media resources that they have. This is an example of some great work, but I will show you some also simpler ways that students can engage in this project as well. But just to give you an idea of some of the things that students are turning
in. Health is something everyone is familiar with. When we think of health, we think about our condition right now, our habits, and our illnesses. Medical care is what helps us when we have problems with these circumstances. Unfortunately, not everyone has it for them or their families. This past year has been an absolute roller coaster that began with my mom being diagnosed with cancer. When my mom went through 16 rounds of chemo, 28 rounds of radiation, and a mastectomy, it was not easy. And without the medical insurance provided by my dad's job, my mom would not have received the treatment she needed in order to continue watching my siblings and I grow. But I know that not everyone has access to this medical insurance. America's healthcare costs an average of $10,000 per person, and it doesn't provide any type of universal health coverage according to Physicians for a National Health Program. As stated by PBS, over 44 million people in the U.S. don't have medical insurance or assistance, and 38 million don't have enough insurance to cover all costs. This generation is crumbling, and it's because health insurance is unaffordable to the people who need it most. America has been lagging behind. It is time for our country to follow suit. Help us make a stance and encourage leaders to make healthcare affordable for its citizens.
Hi, this is Pamela Serrano, and this is my brief but spectacular story.
Familiar with. When we think of health,
this is a student commentary that we really loved because she used a lot of really interesting components, B-roll, some selfie video, stand-up video. But what was really interesting and compelling to us is that not only did she make a case for an issue that she cares about, she also told us why. So this is a media challenge that's asking students to talk about something important to them, but also tell their own stories. Why do they care about this issue? Why do they care about immigration? Or why do they care about gun control? They can also just be an audio. There's no need to do a whole produced video like this. There's so many different ways that you can engage in this project. And I would love to show you all some of the resources for teachers in this project. So let's talk about Election 2020. It was originally designed to be a facilitated unit in the classroom with teachers and students working together. As we're now transitioning to a distance learning format around the country, I'd like to show you how you could adapt this project in a more distance learning kind of way. So if you go to this program page here, and visit the Curricular Resources Toolbox, there's resources for students here, student-facing materials. It's not a very fancy page, but this is something that you could share with your students. And there's all kinds of handouts here that are Google Docs. You can go through these and see if there's anything you might want to adapt for your students. There's examples. So we have a showcase, but we also have shareable examples here. We have resources for students to think about what issues they do care about. So lists and different compilations of issues. Some videos on how to make video and how to make audio, and other different handouts that you can add to your Google Classroom or whatever learning management system you use. We also have some really great teacher-created sample materials, and these are in the slide deck. Both of these are sort of student-led journeys. So I want to show you what one of these looks like. You can add this to your Google Classroom, adapt it for yourself. This is from one of our teachers who completed this project. And actually, this was the teacher of the students who made the video you just watched. She created a student journey that requires really little hand-holding. So it kind of gives all the instructions on how to create an audio or video commentary, links to the analysis worksheets that we've provided, links to ways for students to choose an issue, how do you write a script, has rubric embedded, and everything a student's going to need to do to go through the entire project mostly independently with minimal hand-holding from the teacher. And I think that's where we're at right now. And there's also another one created by another teacher who completed this project and shared her resources with us. She created this beautiful journey here, starting with reading Newsella articles on topics that are interesting and going all the way through the project, all the way to publishing on the showcase. So these are available for you to copy. You can adapt them to meet the needs of your students as well. So those are all here in the presentation as well, if you're looking for them and just want to find them easily. The next few slides, I just want to walk you through how to sign up for KQED Learn. It's pretty simple. On the homepage here, just go to sign up and make sure you click I'm a teacher. One thing that we did add really recently, and it's not on the slide because it just happened, you can sign on with your Google single sign-on. So you can just go ahead and do that. It's going to prompt you to add a new class. So you can add a class if you have 5 class periods. Each one can have its own class. We don't yet have the capability to import a Google roster. That will be coming soon, and I hope really soon. Right now, you can give your students a join code for each class. Your students are also going to need to start their own accounts. So this is probably easiest to do if you still have students in front of you right now. I noticed somebody mentioned that schools are going distant on Monday. So if you have time tomorrow, that would probably be easiest. If not, it's still pretty easy to sign on. Students create a student account. Similarly, either put in an email and password or just sign on with your Google sign-on. They have to put in the join code that you provide, and then log in. So it's pretty simple. If you have any questions, you can always email us at learn@kqed.org, and make sure you follow us at KQED Headspace on Twitter as well. I want to leave the rest of the time for any questions that you might have. So let's see. I'm seeing, oh, link doesn't really say anything about copyright other than it exists and it needs to be followed. Yeah, so copyright issues is, we do have resources in the program page about copyright. For anything to be shared on broadcast, it needs to follow copyright restrictions. So it has to be anything that you can use and you're free to use. But besides that, we are encouraging students to find copyright-free materials, or just don't use any third-party materials. So if you can, just do selfie videos, just do audio. That's probably the easiest. Some teachers really encourage students to learn about copyright. And some of these are getting shared out on our social channels, on KQED Channel 9, and we're looking to partner with, we are partnering with PBS stations from around the country to share these as short interstitials closer to the election in November. Are there any other questions? One more thing I want to say about the election challenge. So this is really exciting and a big thing for us at KQED Education. One thing we're really committed to is elevating student voice. So for us, it's not about only having them up on the showcase. We're really excited about putting these up on our general audience channels because we want to engage our general audience with what youth are talking about now. We also know that now the world is really different than when we created this challenge. So we're encouraging students to write about COVID-19, to write about the political response and what they think needs to happen and how government should respond. I mean, everything changes so quickly now. So any way that you can encourage your students to be civically engaged around this issue, we really want to hear what they have to say. And we want to share it out. We've already had some shared out on KQED Science, and some in the works right now for television broadcast. One more thing, there in the teacher materials, you will see a link to materials release form. We will need those if we're going to be sharing any of those out on broadcast. So please send me any questions to my email if you have any questions about that. Yeah, so if there aren't any more questions, please take care of yourselves. I know this is a really hard time. We are all kind of adapting, and I think teachers are doing a great job. You guys are heroes. All right. Have a great afternoon. Oh, I see a question. I saw the part on discussions. Is that all open, or can I create a discussion for my class that only my school can participate in? These are open discussions. So we create the discussion based on an Above the Noise episode, and then students who are enrolled in classes can have discussions with each other in different classrooms. I mean, cross classrooms. they cannot be made closed. We are also, if you check back in about a month or so, we're going to be adding some other PBS material onto discussions. There's going to be some PBS NewsHour pieces that might be interesting to you, and we might be seeing some other pieces from a Ken Burns documentary that's going to be adapted for KQED Learn. So make sure you check back and see what kind of new discussions we're going to be adding. Catherine, I'm not sure what you mean. Will this discussion thread stay open? The KQED Learn discussions are open. They stay on. After the webinar, no, I don't think it is. I think it's going to be, when we leave the meeting, it will be closed. Okay, we can definitely hold the room until 4:30 and definitely happy to take any more questions. Oh, sure. We have in the presentation, Catherine, I'm going to give you the bit.ly here, and you can have access to all the links. Please make sure you get the presentation bit.ly. That way you can have the presentation, go through it. And please don't hesitate to email me. I'm so happy to answer any questions. I can walk you through how to use Learn one-on-one if you need any help.